As a teen, I was kicked out over false rumors my brother spread. Years later, after abandoning me, my parents now expect financial help. I'm a 31-year-old female, and I have a twin brother. Honestly, growing up, the way my parents treated us was totally different. They had these big dreams for him, thinking he was going to do amazing things, and I was kind of stuck with the black sheep label just because I liked playing sports and hanging out, instead of just hitting the books all the time. This was a very disheartening experience that played a major role in lowering my self-esteem since I was young. During our joint birthdays, I had to watch my brother go about his big celebrations with friends, and I was never given attention. So, my brother was always having sleepovers with his friends, but I could never have anyone over. Honestly, I really didn't like much of my childhood. The only person in the family who actually seemed to give a damn about me was my grandma. Anytime she came by, she would bring my favorite chocolates and sometimes slip me a couple of bucks to treat myself later. Over the years, it really did feel like my parents' favoritism towards my twin brother turned into emotional abuse aimed at me. They would completely mock my grades and look down on the things I liked. No matter how hard I tried, it just felt like I could never live up to their idea of the perfect kid. Even though I was really good at sports, they wouldn't let me join any extracurricular stuff, saying I had to just focus on school like my brother. When I was younger, it would make me so angry and feel like I wasn't in control. In my sophomore year, I got grounded again for having Snapchat on my phone. I didn't do anything wrong. I just downloaded the app to keep up with my friends, just like any other normal teenager would. So my parents thought it was a big deal. They told me that I couldn't speak to any person outside of the family. They went nuts. Threw things around my room and took the doors off the hinges, telling me that I wouldn't have privacy because I was living at home. It really hurt to see my parents treating me like that, and instead of having my back, my twin brother just made it worse. The messed up vibe from our parents' unfair treatment gave him the chance to take advantage. He started lying about me, making up stuff I didn't even do just to save his own skin. If he caught something that wasn't his, he totally blamed me for it, and my folks, who already thought the worst of me, just bought into his lies without a second thought. He would roast me in front of my buddies at school and make fun of how I looked. Still, I somehow kept a big group of friends since I was easy to talk to and always wanted to hang out with others. My twin brother, on the other hand, struggled socially and began to resent my ability to connect with others. Being an introvert, he would generally feel very awkward in social situations. This jealousy reached a boiling point during our 14th birthday party when none of his friends showed up. I still can't figure out why they didn't show up, but on the other hand, my friends took me out for ice cream and I had a great day. That just made my brother angrier. To get back at me, he started spreading some lies in school, making me look like a spoiled brat. So he told them I was beating him at home, totally playing on how our parents favored him. I had no idea he was taking things way too far. He would actually hurt himself, like punching himself to get black eyes or bruises, and then come to school the next day flaunting these self-inflicted injuries as proof of my so-called abuse, making up stories to back it all up. So when our people would ask him about the injuries he'd sustained, he'd make up stories, saying he got black eyes playing football with his friends. His fabricated tales of black eyes became things that lingered in the minds of others, and eventually, others came to believe this weird version of what actually went down. People started making rumors, and even my buddies gave me looks. At first, I did not even notice the insinuations. Friends who chatted with me in hallways became distant, and very few invited me to a group hangout. People started to be not interested in talking with the supposedly spoiled girl known for being violent. It took one day for me to muster up the courage to find my ex-best friend and learn why our friendship took a nosedive. She told me that my twin brother had been spreading rumors about me, elaborating on lies that accused me of things I had never done. I was shocked, in a mix of disbelief and betrayal, as if the floor beneath me had given way. It was just heartbreaking to find out my brother, whom I grew up with, was telling untruths about me and blaming me for stuff I would never even think of. The betrayal cut deep, leaving a knot in my stomach and a heavy heart. The very next day, after hearing about the rumors, I confronted my brother at school, only for him to ignore me outright. I begged him to stop lying about me, but he just smirked and said I deserved to suffer alone. I was speechless the whole time. His lies and his acting were really scary. I wanted to talk to my folks, but I was afraid they would take his side instead of mine. Being isolated was hard when I have always been gamed for making new friends. It felt like my brother's jealous lies were tearing apart all the connections I had made over the years. So the teachers started hearing the rumors too, and it was like this weird experience where my real self got totally overshadowed by the messed up story my own twin made up. The lies blew up way past regular teenage gossip. They actually started to change how people saw me for real. Before I knew it, those awful rumors hit the principal, and that's when my worst nightmare happened. So the principal called my brother and me into his office, and our parents too, to talk about these rumors. I was just sitting there, heart beating fast, and the principal said, "What's the truth?" I really thought my brother would just come clean, but nope. He just kept lying. He straight up told the principal that all those rumors were true, making me look like some bully who was beating him up whenever our parents weren't looking. I couldn't believe it when he started spinning this crazy story, saying I was mad at him for getting more love and attention from our folks. None of it was true, but he stuck to his story like it was the gospel. So my mom started crying, clutching my brother like he was some kind of hero who'd been through a lot. My dad was trying to comfort him, calling him brave for speaking up, and promising he'd make sure nothing like that ever happened again. In the meantime, I was really trying to stick up for myself, begging the principal to understand that it was all a bunch of lies. I felt like I was drowning in this sea of accusations, trying to keep my head above the water while he continued to say that I was this angry, violent person who was always taking shots at him. My mom was bawling nonstop while clutching my brother and giving me those killer looks. It was like I was up against this solid wall of everyone believing his made-up story. The principal laid into me big time, saying the school had a zero-tolerance rule for bullying and that this could get me suspended. I totally begged him not to kick me out, but he just shook his head and said he couldn't overlook what was going on. I was really pleading with tears running down my face, trying to make him believe that I didn't do anything to my brother, but he stuck to his guns, telling me I'd be out for 10 days as a lesson for everyone about bullying. His words felt like a ton of bricks dropped on me, and I just went ballistic, basically begging him to reconsider. So my parents were super embarrassed and mad, and they pulled me out of the principal's office. I really didn't want to go. I just wanted to keep arguing, to get them to see my side, but they just wouldn't hear it. Once we got home, everything got even worse. Out of the blue, my dad started shoving my stuff into boxes. I was utterly blown away, so lost, and had no idea what was going on. Mom asked Dad what he was doing, but he just yelled at her that he couldn't let me live with my brother anymore. I lost it, totally on my knees, pleading with my brother to tell them the truth. But he sat there cold, totally numb to how hysterical I was. My dad kept packing up my stuff and then chucked a suitcase into the hallway. I hung onto his legs, seriously begging him not to kick me out. It was like a total nightmare happening right in front of me. He said someone like me, a bully, shouldn't be living in his house, and that he'd call my grandma to come pick me up if she wanted to take me in. At that moment, it felt like the ground just got yanked out from under me. I was standing there in shock, with my stuff all over the foyer, totally kicked out of my own home. So my grandma finally arrived. She helped me toss my stuff into the car and then helped me into the passenger seat. My grandma made sure I was all buckled up in the seat before we pulled up to my parents' front door. She rang the doorbell, and when my dad answered, she lit into him for how he'd treated me. She gave him a very serious warning. If he ever dared to come near or get in touch with me again, she'd certainly call the police or Child Protective Services. It was very clear what he had done to me was an imprisonment offense. My mom tried to put all the blame on my part, but Grandma just wouldn't buy into it at all. She really stood her ground, backing me up and saying that I was just a kid who didn't deserve to be spoken to so harshly. That was the first time I really felt my grandma's strength. She stood her ground against my parents, and unlike them, she had my back. We then hit the road to leave the house I grew up in behind. Honestly, I can't even put into words how much it hurt back then. All I can remember is lying in bed crying and not being able to eat, even though my grandma kept telling me to. I filled her in on what my brother did, and she was just as shocked and appalled. She totally made me believe she was on my side of the story, and to be honest, it was probably the first time in forever that I really felt like I had an ally. Well, after the 10 days were up, the thought alone of returning to school without a doubt felt like descending into the lion's den. As I walked back through those familiar hallways, the stares from classmates said it all. Judging, whispering, side-eye glances. The weight of those fake accusations was still there, feeling heavy and smothering. So, my brother just totally ignored me, like I was invisible. He found new friends who bought into his story and thought he was the poor victim of my so-called bullying. I tried to set the record straight, but nobody paid attention. I ended up feeling like an outcast, tagged as something I wasn't. It was like that label was stuck to me wherever I went, just hanging over me like a dark shadow. In the classroom, the cafeteria, and the hallways, people looked at me like I was dirt, all full of disdain and distrust. I became a complete loner, just keeping my head down and going to my classes, eating lunch alone, and heading straight home afterward. I didn't have any friends, and it honestly felt like no one wanted me around anymore. All this time, my parents didn't even bother to check on me. But through it all, there was always Grandma saying it wasn't my fault, and that things would eventually get better. I graduated from high school with decent grades, and was really looking forward to college, hoping for a fresh start and a better life. It was only when I went to college that I finally felt truly free. There, I had no nosy people, no endless comparisons, and nobody trying to outdo me. Met new people, made buddies with those who liked what I did. Even with all the emotional and physical scars from my family and peer group, I just really tried to put all of that behind me and totally enjoy my college years. So, while all this was going on, I found out I had a knack for content writing. I've always loved writing, but I wasn't sure it could actually pay the bills. So, I kind of pushed that dream aside for a bit. But then I thought, why not try freelancing on the side to make some extra cash? I jumped onto a bunch of freelancing sites and pretty soon started getting gigs from some pretty big-name clients. So here's how I built my portfolio in college. I continued doing my little side hustle and never ever asked my parents for money. When I finished school, instead of joining the corporate world, I figured I could actually turn content writing into my full-time thing. Everything was chugging along smoothly since I had a bunch of clients and also had some solid long-term relationships in place, allowing me to dive into most of their ongoing projects. So, starting a legit freelancing gig not only made me financially independent, but also let me roam the world as a digital nomad. Traveling really helped me heal from my past, but honestly, it wasn't always a walk in the park. I saved up every penny I could and took a big leap of faith. Over the years, I've checked out so many places, but there's still a ton left for me to explore. The only person I really considered family through all this was my grandma, and I loved her a lot. She was bummed when I moved out, but she got that I needed to stand on my own 2 feet. Even with my crazy schedule, I always made sure to drop by and see her on weekends, usually sharing some food or just chilling on the porch, talking about everything from old times to what's been going on lately. I used to spend whole afternoons just hanging out with my grandma, helping her with chores or taking her for walks in the park. Recently, I wrapped up one of the biggest projects of my career. I can't spill the brand name, but I got lucky and wrote blogs and product descriptions for them. I then asked the team, and they went ahead with it, writing some of the most brilliant reviews of my work. I will have to attach some screenshots to this DM as proof of how greatly important this project would be in my career. As expected, many other content writers reached out to congratulate me on my success and even reposted my story to help spread the word. I soon started getting messages from strangers needing help with their websites. Some of my relatives also reached out to congratulate me. Then the principal of my college called me. He must have realized how far I'd come and asked if I would do a seminar on how to build a career as a content writer for the students. Not much of a public speaker, but I decided to grab this opportunity. When I got up in front of those bright, enthusiastic students, relating to them my experiences, things I learned, I felt like everything had culminated in that moment for me. So during my talk at the seminar, I opened up about the struggles I went through and how I hustled hard to keep myself going even on the rough days. It was honestly super rewarding to help others out and play a part in boosting the writing community. A few of my clips even blew up in Facebook groups because folks totally connected with my story. It felt awesome to finally get some recognition for all the effort I put in. Last week, I was invited to a local news channel for a chat. The show is all about the perks that come with content writing, and they wanted me to share my journey and experiences with their audience. Honestly, I was a little nervous but quite excited about this whole thing. While I was on the show, I talked about my experiences, why client reviews are a big deal, and how even a little appreciation post can lead to some awesome opportunities. It was super cool to have the chance to reach more people and inspire folks in the field. Honestly, it felt both humbling and exciting. When the segment went live, I posted some clips from the show on my Instagram, feeling proud of the recognition and really thankful for being featured. So, this is how my relatives and cousins found out what I was up to career-wise. You know, since my parents never said anything about me to anyone, they had no clue that I was working with big-name brands or even going on TV shows. I guess the word about my success finally reached them, most likely via the TV interview, as just a few days after that, I was getting busy with my other project and found 6 calls on my phone from my mother. I was really shocked when her name appeared on my phone because it had been ages since she last called me. After all that time without a peep, I was totally confused about why she decided to reach out now. A little apprehensive, I dialed her back and she picked up right away. I asked if everything was cool and she just started congratulating me. So my dad, who was probably sitting right next to her, jumped into the chat and started asking about my life and how I was doing. I just went along answering their questions without really thinking, but it didn't hit me as weird until they asked how much I was making these days. I told them my money stuff was none of their business, but my dad was all, "Come on, we're family. You shouldn't be shy about telling us how much you make." I told him I was doing pretty well, but then my mom jumped in and started talking about how hard things had been lately for them, so I got suspicious. "Mom, well, we're retired now and have been wanting to fix up the house forever. It's not in the best of shape, but we sort of blew our savings." Me, all right. Seeing you succeed gives us hope. After watching your interview on TV this morning, we thought you might be able to give us a hand with your renovations. Dad, hey, We're family, so don't think twice about sharing some of your cash with us. We could really use your help. Me: Are you kidding me? Why are you asking for cash after all this time of not talking? I have no idea why you decided to get in touch, but hey, thanks for the congrats, but I'm not gonna lend you any money. So, my mom heard this and totally called me selfish, saying I should be supporting them since we're family. So, my dad chipped in, saying that as my parents, they deserved some looking after. And really, this was the least we could do. I was so angry about it all that I just wanted to let them have it. Then I had my light bulb moment. Rather than just arguing with them, I should teach them a lesson. I mean, after all those years of them mistreating me, they think they can mooch off me? Anyway, I told my parents that I would help them, but only if they agreed to my terms. My dad, obviously intrigued, asked what I wanted. Without missing a beat, I dropped my bombshell demand. If they wanted my help, they had to stand up in front of our family and friends and publicly state that my brother was behind those nasty rumors that wrecked my reputation. In effect, I wanted them to throw my brother under the bus, just as he had done to me through his lies and manipulation. I wanted them to own up to what they did and see how much they hurt me. When I told my dad what I needed, he started wondering why I even needed that. My mom said it wasn't a big deal and thought we could just talk it out privately, but I stood firm. This was something we couldn't skip. It was a must for any help I might give down the line. And as things got more heated, he began yelling, trying to assert he was the dad, claiming I needed to step up and help the family. Desperate, my mom just kept harping on me to do the right thing and lend a hand, mentioning all those years they put into raising me. Man, I couldn't help but laugh at the ridiculousness of their sudden appeal because of the irony involved. I reminded them of the past, how they booted me out, and it was my grandma who raised me, not them. They were pretty riled up, but I made it clear to them right off the bat that if they wanted to contact me for money assistance in the future, they'd have to publicly admit to the truth, and my brother had to face the consequences of his actions. So, ever since we last chatted, my folks have been blowing up my phone, but I've just been dodging their calls. I'm kind of regretting that I even called them back that day. I'm thinking, maybe it'd actually be a mistake if I don't help them out at all? Man, it's been a super emotional week since I shared my story, and honestly, the support and encouragement from everyone have just blown me away. It feels good to know I'm not alone in all this. I really appreciate that others agree with me when I say I don't want to deal with my parents or even think about helping them after all they have done to me. I made it super hard on them on purpose because I knew they couldn't pull it off. I mean, they care about my brother way too much, and though they probably know the truth now about his lying, I am sure that they will never be able to hold him responsible as they did me. Today, my brother sent me a mean text because my parents attempted to contact me again, but I wouldn't respond. This is what he said. "Hey, sis, it feels like forever since I've seen you. And to be honest, every day without you around has been kinda nice. I heard Mom and Dad hit you up and you gave them some wild ultimatum. Come on, you know they're not actually gonna follow through, right? They clearly never cared about you, and they wouldn't do anything to mess with me. Yeah, I totally lied about you 15 years ago, but that was ages ago, so quit being so selfish and just move on. You're not even married or have kids. So why not help them out with their house repairs and renovations? Just do the decent thing and be a better daughter." To get that message felt like a knife straight to the chest. Can you believe he had the nerve to dismiss everything I went through, to totally ignore what I said? It showed how little he cares. Then he had the guts to try to make me feel guilty for being single, not having kids. More thoughtlessness. And in the hint that I can put their needs before mine, it didn't even just hurt, it once more showed how little he considers me. And so I was so frustrated, and I just wanted some justice, you know? That is when I felt it was time to take control and spill the truth that had been kept under wraps for ages. I sat down and wrote an email to my parents and close relatives, laying out all the painful stuff about my childhood and the unjust treatment I had to endure growing up in my family's home. Anyway, in that email I had written how hard and strict it was to live with my parents and how they treated me far worse than my twin brother. I also shared with her the totally false and nasty rumor he spread about me in school, messing up my reputation big time and having some pretty serious fallout. I told them how my parents kicked me out and how I would not have made it if it were not for my grandma. I attached a screenshot near the end where my brother finally confessed to lying about me. It was pretty obvious, but one that I hoped would shine some light on all the lies that had been bugging me for ages. I just sent the email an hour ago, and I'm pretty damn certain it's going to be chaos once my parents and brother see it. I'll keep you updated on how my family takes it. Update 2. Okay, so it's been a month since I last filled you in, and trust me, a lot has gone down. Ever since I got that email, my family went totally insane. So, my parents have been getting a lot of flack from relatives who didn't know just how bad the favoritism and emotional abuse I went through was. A bunch of family members hit me up, totally surprised and apologizing for not having my back. My brother and parents were, at the same time, just flooding my phone with texts that got more and more nasty and aggressive. Anyway, I figured I would reach out to a lawyer, and they went ahead and sent a cease and desist notice. This notice pretty much put them on notice that if they continued to bother me, there would be a world of legal hurt. Looks like the notice did its job because they totally backed off. My grandma thinks I did the right thing by letting everybody know the truth, and she's totally behind me. She's literally the only person that really matters to me, so I'm just super relieved and thankful to have her with me. Update 3. It's been 2 months since I last filled you in, and I'm happy to report that everything's going pretty great right now. Work-wise, my content writing gig is doing awesome, and I've kept getting asked to speak at seminars and podcasts, which really helped boost my rep in the industry. Plus, I've gotten even closer to my grandma. I recently took a little break from work just to chill with her. She's really gotten into gardening, teaching me all about the flowers and herbs in her garden. Just the times we spend together, be it enjoying meals or having deep chats, just chilling with each other, are some of my favorite memories. Ever since I received that letter from my lawyer, my family hasn't tried to reach out, which is honestly a relief since they're giving me the space I need. On a personal note, I've started going to therapy to help me focus on my healing journey. I think this will be my last update for a bit.